Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, or afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I want to, first of all, thank everyone for joining and taking the time to attend today's session. I think I'll give us like a minute or so just to let everyone settle in and allow for more people to join as well.
Good morning,
Just a
Ghalia.
minute or so. What's that?
I said good morning, Ghalia.
Oh, good morning to you, Abdurrahman, as well. Good morning to you, Garrett.
Good
How is
morning.
everyone doing today?
Very good, thank you. And you?
I'm good, thank you. It's quite hot now, isn't it? Summer
Here,
is back.
summer is around the corner.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think we are good to go now. Once again, I really want to thank everyone for joining us. We are really excited to have you. Our today's session is titled The Use of AI in Achieving Speed and Compliance in Financial Services. So, as Muzen and in partnership with Google Cloud, today we will explore how AI and cloud technologies are shaping the future of fraud prevention, compliance, and operational excellence in the financial institutions. So we've got some fantastic speakers joining us today lined up, both from Google Cloud and Amazon, and we will be covering a range of topics, including infrastructure, innovation, and real-world success stories. Towards the end of the session, we will have a dedicated time for Q&As where you guys, our joint audiences, can tag along and share any questions that you have in the Q&A box. We will try to get to as many as we can from the Q&A box. So throughout the session, just drop your questions. I guess before we dive in, I'll pass the mic now to Abdurrahman to introduce himself and tell us more about his role at Google Cloud.
Thank you so much, Ghalia. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good morning once again. So it's a true pleasure to be here and to share the stage with Garrett. Once again, special thanks to Muzin's team for arranging this insightful webinar. Hopefully by the end of this session, we'll be able to learn a thing or two. So once again, I'm Abdurrahman Al-Shakir. I'm leading the digital native businesses at Google Cloud based out of Riyadh in Saudi Arabia.
Amazing. So very nice to meet you, Abdurrahman. Now, Garrett, can you please tell us more about yourself and about what you do with Wizard?
Thank you, Khalia. And good morning and good afternoon to everybody that's joined. Thank you guys for joining. I hope that the session is going to be informative. A little bit about myself. I'm Director of Data Science at Mozen, and specifically Focal. Focal is a software suite that's specifically aimed at fraud prevention and compliance. I lead a talented team of data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, and data annotators, and our role is basically to develop and deploy AI that detect and prevent fraud. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you both, Abdurrahman and Garrett. So, Abdurrahman, I want to start with you first. Can you please help us understand cloud infrastructure? So, basically, what is it? What is cloud infrastructure? How does it support the development of AI models specifically for fraud detection in financial institutions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand that you're asking two main questions and very important questions. The first is what is cloud infrastructure? At a foundational level, cloud infrastructure is the backbone of cloud computing. So think about servers, storage, networking, databases, virtualization, security tools, all delivered on demand over the internet. You can think of it as a utility. So you pay only for what you use, right? So the second part, or the second question is how does it support AI fraud detection in finance specifically? There are a few ways how cloud infrastructure specifically serves AI fraud detection. First and foremost, scalability and elasticity. So cloud infrastructure offers, the massive scale and is able to handle massive and fluctuating financial data volumes in real time. It also offers powerful compute, the power of GPUs, TPUs, and complex AI models without any huge upfront investments. Once again, it's on demand, pay for what you use only. Also, cloud infrastructure, and specifically Google Cloud, has really strong big data capabilities where financial institutions or even fraud detectors are able to efficiently store and process and analyze large data sets that are extremely essential for training models to detect fraud. Also, I wanted to touch base on specifically how cloud infrastructure is very cost effective. Relatively speaking, when you want to spin up a specific software or a product that detects fraud, if we look at on-premises deployment, usually you'll have to order the hardware, ship it, go through customs, have the manpower to install it and manage it. So all of that life cycle of installing the hardware on premises is very costly. Versus when you have cloud infrastructures and cloud providers such as Google Cloud, you can within minutes go into the Google Cloud console and spin up any servers or databases or AI tools with a very low cost. And lastly, it's very important to mention that cloud infrastructure really enables, all fraud detectors and financial institutions to really foster innovation. Back to the point where instead of having the manpower and the technical team spend their time installing the hardware, managing the hardware, and probably maintaining the hardware as well, they're really able to free up their time to focus on building the next new innovation. So in a nutshell, cloud infrastructure is not just an IT upgrade, it's a strategic enabler for financial institutions that will make them leverage the power of AI and fight against fraud.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for that answer, Abdurrahman. You've listed so many amazing things about cloud infrastructure, and you've gone into depth, and I totally agree with you, specifically on the part that cloud and cloud infrastructure isn't just about the backbone thing anymore. It's what's making AI usable these days and scalable in the real world. So that makes it super clear. Thank you so much. Now I'll move on to Garrett. Garrett, can you please help us understand more? What does the modern day fraud even mean? It's a new, it's basically a new thing that came up like the last 5-10 years. And can you more specifically tell us how can AI help detect and prevent new fraud schemes that are emerging faster and more accurately than the traditional systems?
Yes, thank you, Khalia, for the question. So just a little bit of background first off. So fraud is sort of a prevailing problem in the modern world, and it's getting worse basically as we sort of adopt technology more. And there's literally hundreds of types of fraud, but I want to focus on sort of the 4 types of fraud that we see specifically in our ecosystem and in our clients that really battle with. The first one is account takeover. And this is really where criminals basically get access to your account in an unauthorized way, and then they transfer the money out of your account. And then second one is payment or transfer fraud. And this is basically the fraudsters use social engineering to manipulate individuals to make payment to fraudulent entities. You're thinking you're paying something legitimate, but it's not the case. The third one is counterfeit cards. So this is really where fraudsters obtain either stolen cards or stolen card credentials, and they use this to make purchases and obviously convert those purchases to cash. And then the one that sort of links everything together is money laundering. So once the financial crime takes place, that money has to be moved out of the system. And this is really the origin of obtaining moving illegally obtained funds through hidden and complex transactions and networks. And we also call this money muling. So this is really the problem that we face with. Why has it become a bigger problem now today than previously? And it's really because of digitalization, and we interact online a lot more. We've got a lot more transactions. We've got multiple accounts. We've got bank accounts, credit accounts, payment wallets, etc. And each of these points is basically a target for potential fraudsters. We also share data online, and data leaks and data theft is a big problem. These details are shared by the fraudsters, and they can build profiles about individuals, which will eventually allow them to either socially engineer or scam the individual or steal their identity. So the problem is extensive.
Mhm.
Also organized crimes, the same tools that data scientists and data analysts and use to detect and prevent fraud, they basically have got access to the same tools, and they use them, unfortunately, in not an honest way. How AI can help to prevent losses by detecting fraud patterns. First off, traditional methods are not that effective anymore. It's very easy for fraudsters to understand rule-based systems and to sort of learn and how exploits and how to defeat the system. Cloud and Abdulrahman, you definitely, Cloud is a data scientist's best friend. With Cloud, we can manage and process big data effectively and efficiently, and we can build and deploy anti-fraud solutions a lot quicker than we can do without Cloud. This allows us with, scalable compute. As I said, if we need to build a model, we spin up a couple of GPUs, we train the model, and we close down the GPUs after that. So it's a cost-effective solution, but it allows us to really exploit our powerful algorithms that help us to keep ahead of fraudsters. And what we do is we basically detect hidden patterns and connections that are too complex for traditional based systems to detect. We also find that it allows us to humanize AI, and we've seen that in recent years, and that AI is becoming more human, in that we've got ChatGPT and all of these agents, and we can talk to them, and they can explain information to us. And we also do this in that we combine large language models with more traditional machine learning techniques to create agents that not just detect fraud, but also explain why the fraud happens. So one part is detecting fraud, but also the other one, once fraud happens, is to get a quick and efficient case resolution. And this is definitely where AI is playing a leading role.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely, Garrett. Thank you so much for that answer. I think that real-time angle is such a game changer, especially with combating fraud. And like traditional systems, they just doesn't cut it anymore of like how advanced and how quickly those advances are becoming. And so like traditional systems are just like not up for the speed or the adaptability to just catch all those types of like new frauds. And I think like everyone here who's joining us today have heard at least of one horror story about account takeover, and or maybe like have fallen a victim to it. So I don't know, like I think we could do our best and just, help try catch those fraudsters as soon as we can. Okay, so thank you so much, Garrett, again. I want to shift gears now a little bit and talk about future trends. So something more optimistic, basically. So Garrett, this question is for you once again. Can you share with us what future trends do you anticipate in the adoption of AI and cloud technologies within financial institutions?
Sure. Thank you for that question. So first off, before I explain what sort of what our future, how we see the future developing from our side, it's important to understand what the fraudsters are doing. So we are seeing more AI-based or driven fraud. And specifically where fraudsters are using deep learning, ChatGPT, large language models to create more convincing phishing attacks to exploit system vulnerabilities. So they can really fool people, even people that are really sort of, already well versed in what is sort of potential fraudulent emails, etc. It's really difficult these days to detect. We're also seeing more the use of deep fakes, specifically as we use more biometric data to log into your account, to test if you're human or if you're actually the right person accessing the account. So we are seeing that the fraudsters are also using this. And then also the dark web, and I sort of touched on this before about data leaks. So that as soon as the data leak occurs, that data is transferred to the dark web, and they've got a marketplace where you can actually buy data and you can use it for your fraudulent activities. So that's the challenge we face. The trend that we see is scalability and flexibility. And again, the cloud, without cloud, we don't have scalability and flexibility. So cloud allows us for rapid development of fraud detection technologies. So and this is really real-time data analytics to machine learning and deep learning models. It also allows us to build AI agents that, as I said, help to humanize sort of the AI component. So we don't just get an alert if this is potential fraud. We actually get very compelling reasons to why this is potentially, why the system is seeing this as fraud. And that's really the way I see the future developing, is using AI in this role where it becomes an assistant. You still have people that are experts, within fraud detection and fraud prevention, but they've got all the tools at their fingertips, so they can make the right decision quickly and efficiently, and at the end protect the funds of their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Garrett, did a follow-up question. So in your expert opinion, what do you think is the most occurring or like the fastest future trend to anticipate?
No, that is, I think, well, processing power again helps us to create or to use deep learning, so machine, large language models, neural networks in fraud detection. So I think that is the big thing, definitely going ahead. It's also very adaptable, so it's not just there to stop fraud, but as I said, it can provide explainability, it can provide information about a certain case, etc. So for me, definitely the key future trend in fraud detection is using deep learning technologies.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I agree with you. I believe that we need to be on the looks for that, and because it's gonna help our serve our customers better as financial institutions specifically, and security comes first. So thank you so much, Garrett. I'll now move on to you, Abdulrahman. While staying on the same subject of future trends, my next question is, what role do partnerships and ecosystems like Google Cloud and Muzen play in strengthening defenses against fraud?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ghalia. And the Google Cloud and Muzen partnership is my favorite. And I'm within Google Cloud, I always have a saying to my internal team that I'm biggest advocate to Muzen at Google Cloud and in the entire cloud industry here in Saudi. So there's a saying, or maybe I'll make it a saying. So no one fights fraud alone, right? So partnerships like Google Cloud and Muzen is super essential, and it's vital, and it's a main pillar to achieve or drive success of both organizations. It's not only beneficial, it's not a nice to have, it's a must to have, right? So what's really these kind of partnerships brings together, it brings the global innovation and brings it together and meets the local expertise, the best of both worlds, right? So Google Cloud, in a sense, provides the global infrastructure, the cutting edge AI, such as Vertex AI, Gemini, the massive research and development, teams working all around the world, the enterprise grade security, and the foundational building blocks. While on the other hand, Muzen delivers the deep regional understanding of Saudi Arabia regulations, the region, the entire GCC region and MENA region, kind of understanding of the regulations and how to customize these solutions and build specialized AI fraud solutions with the local regulatory know-how. In other words, the kind of the last mile customization of specific, similar to Focal, and what Muzen is doing with Focal in Saudi is amazing, and in other parts of the GCC, right? It's this kind of partnership allows both to have faster time to market, where Muzen Google Cloud tools to accelerate development and deployment of their tailored solution. It also offers a more comprehensive and full 360 view of a defense against fraud. It offers multiple layers of security and protection. It's back to the innovation point as well. It offers continuous innovation through collaboration and expand the outreach to multiple banks or financials or fintechs or whatever it is. And bringing the bright minds of Mozon with Google Cloud engineers really enhances the support and the implementation in the best way possible that serves the end user. So this kind of partnership builds additional trust and compliance, specifically here in Saudi, based on my humble expertise. SAMA, the Saudi Central Bank, has very stringent rules and guidelines, which are, really there to serve the best, the best guide, the best, security practices to these financial institutions. So having both working towards one goal and one objective is very essential and a pillar to fight fraud in financial institutions.
I couldn't agree more with you, Abdurrahman. I believe that partnerships like those of similar to what we have here, like Google Cloud and Mozon, are what move the industry forward. And it's not just about the technology; it's about the trusted collaboration. And everyone, this is your reminder that no one fights fraud alone. Thank you so much, Abdurrahman, for that answer and for that amazing quote. Thank you. So, Garrett, right now, I want to move the conversation a little bit and learn more about best practices. So, what are the most pressing fraud threats anticipated in the near future, and what are the best practices for institutions to prepare for them?
Okay, thank you. So first off, so the best practices, and I think Abdurrahman also sort of, provided a lot of context to that, is that we've got SAMA and regulation within the region is really there to protect the financial system. So, and that also needs to be applied on how we build basically and deploy models. So first off, within a cloud environment, data security is very critical. So we don't want ourselves to become a victim of fraud and a data leak, and the data could be quite harmful. So we basically deploy best practices when it comes to data processing by anonymizing data as soon as possible, so that if there is ever a possibility of a security leak, the data is basically useless. So data quality, data security, and data access is very important. Basically being able to deploy and these solutions, the right sort of process needs to be followed as well. So when we build and develop models, we should make sure that these models are robust and reliable. So they must work for different clients in sort of slightly different scenarios. And we need to ensure that these models are performant. So we don't want to create difficulties for our clients. We want to solve solutions. We don't want to create too many false positives, but we want to stop fraud. So, and this is typically a difficult ask, but we've got the tools and we've got the data and the support from our partners to do this. Once the models are deployed, we need to actually monitor these models on an ongoing basis to ensure that they are still doing what they're supposed to do. And also through monitoring, what happens, unfortunately, is that this is a war that we have with fraudsters. Once we implement something, the fraudsters will change their behavior and try something different. So we constantly have to monitor the models to see where it's working and where suddenly we're seeing new patterns. Documentation, version control, these things are really also important to ensure that we manage the models during their lifetime. Scalability and efficiency, critical. What we've seen, through our cloud partnerships is that we can develop and deploy solutions a lot faster than what we could do 5 years or 10 years ago. And it's because the entire system is set up there, from data processing to model development, implementation to monitoring. It allows for collaboration, communication between us, our partners, internal stakeholder engagement, being able to reach out to our clients, and getting really understanding what their fraud problems are, so we can build the tools and the solutions that stop it. And then continuous learning and improvement. We never get to a point where our work is done. It's always evolving. So that's really sort of touching on the best practices. I can also go a little bit into sort of giving you a couple of examples of really in practice how, you know, AI is redefining fraud prevention in the region.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've been very fortunate and successful in that we've got clients that we've partnered with, and the results have been really astounding, specifically in detecting financial fraud. And I've sort of touched on this at account takeover, third-party fraud, and muling. And we do this basically by building machine learning models that are data-driven. So it looks at past behaviors, and then it sort of detects sort of at the data point level whether something is a risky attribute or not a risky attribute. We also deploy the latest technology. So we are transitioning into deep learning. And by deep learning, I mean more neural networks, large language models, transformer architectures, etc. We also use and sort of a tool that's been the most successful tool is something called a graph database. A graph database, in essence, connects different entities, whether it's account holders, recipients, the devices they use, how they access the internet, so the IP addresses that they access it from, their geolocations, their email address, their contact details. We create basically a database. The graph database is good because it sort of allows us to connect all of these data points together. So if we, for instance, see a fraudulent or suspicious behavior in part of the network, and we have connections to those ones, what we found is that the connections are typically also suspicious. So we can actually stop fraud before it even happens by tracking these sort of bad plays within the graph databases. And that's been, as I said, our most successful tool. For one of our key clients, we deployed our solutions, and we've seen an 80% reduction in fraud from the sort of human-based rules to the machine learning-based rules. And that doesn't mean that we stopping. We're still developing and innovating to make sure that we basically already sort of stop fraud altogether. So yeah, machine learning and artificial intelligence is definitely showing to add value. Some of the sort of the criticisms that was previously sort of levied against sort of this approach, in that it was black box, it's not understandable. I also believe that is also something of the past. We can build different systems and different solutions that are specifically there to interpret and explain the decisions that these black boxes make. So it's not really a case of having a black box solution. It's really now having a AI that's fully expandable and understandable and can make, help humans really make the right decisions to stop and prevent fraud.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Garrett. Totally makes sense. The threats are getting smarter, and I think that your point about basically proactive detection, not just reactive, is something that we all need to keep in mind. So thank you so much again, Abdurrahman. I'm sure that there are a lot of amazing success stories that you have come across in the industry and in your career. Can you provide examples of successful cross-industry collaborations or data sharing initiatives that have enhanced fraud prevention efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cross-industry collaboration is extremely vital. Fraudsters do not really respect industry silos, so why should our defenses respect it? Our defenses shouldn't either. So bringing these kind of cross-industry collaborations really builds a stronger defense mechanism against fraudsters. For instance, some financial services collaborate with large telcos, where they are able to share anonymized data, like the call data or SIM swap alerts, to flag high-risk transactions, right? Also, we also talked about our partnership, Google Cloud and Muzn, where financial services or fraud detectors and cloud providers really best of both worlds. The global infrastructure meets the local expertise. Also, another example probably would be how e-commerce websites and platforms, financial institutions, and social media all come together from different industries, combating the scams and the fraudsters at source, where they're able to identify and remove fraudulent ads, fake profile, and money mule recruitment, right? What really makes these kind of cross-industry collaborations successful is a few things. Is first, building and strengthening the trust towards a common goal, which is combating fraud. Also, a clear and very straightforward legal and regulatory framework. Also, the standardization of data, which is really important, and sharing a mutual value.
Well, yeah, thank you, Abdurrahman. I believe that all of the examples that we've shared are insightful, and I think that I actually believe it, that the strength in working across the industry is, those examples prove that it makes it tangible, and it's just something that we read about online or in the textbook or anywhere else about how it should be done. This is something that's happening in real life right now between different industries, different companies. So we at Mozen here appreciate the relationship that we have with Google Cloud, and yeah, we hope to keep it going for years and years to come. Thank you, Abdurrahman.
Khalid, if I can just, Abdurrahman mentioned something that is really important, and that is data sharing. Data sharing. So as he alluded to, that the fraudsters don't have barriers; they do share information, and that is definitely one of the most effective tools in combating fraud. And the regulator is definitely promoting this, and Mozen, and our partners would want to be part of that sort of initiative, and that we've seen the advantages of sharing data about suspicious transactions, devices, locations, accounts, recipients. Across the entire ecosystem is really useful, because fraud happens in one institution, and it's known there, but it's not known in the entire ecosystem. And being able to share that information across the entire financial system will definitely have huge benefits when it comes to fraud detection and prevention.
All right, thank you, Garrett. Abdurrahman, do you have anything to add?
No, I just definitely agree with what Garrett was talking about sharing data and how it makes our fight against fraud a lot stronger and adds another layer of security.
Okay. All right. So thank you to our amazing speakers for those amazing insights. Now we would love to hear from you, guys, our audience. If you haven't already, please drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll start answering as much as the time allows us. So I'm going to go through a few of the questions here on my phone. The first question here says, how can financial institutions strike the right balance between real-time fraud detection and maintaining regulatory compliance without introducing delays? And this question was submitted by Yusuf bin Ahmed. I believe that Garrett is more fit to answer this question, no?
I think let me take a stab at it, and then I'm sure Abdurrahman
Absolutely.
will also, so I think that, yes, so real-time fraud detection it's a difficult proposition, because you want to have complex systems on the one side, but at the same time you want to have latency or low latency on the other side, because you don't want to create friction with your clients. So there are some limitations to the complexity in the models that we can build and deploy. But we do sort of get around that by what we call pre-processing more complex data. So we have feeder models that will calculate, that will run overnight, and it will create features that are real-time models use. And that way we can get sort of the best of both worlds. We get basically the complexity and the low latency. So that the other part where I definitely see play a huge role in future is, once a fraud a suspicious case. So a transaction is blocked. It's not confirmed. It's suspicious at that point in time. We need to get a resolution of that suspicious case as soon as possible. And here the use of AI agents, as well as the ability for the agents to really look at the data and give you sort of the hidden patterns and the intricacies of the case. That could be very beneficial in being able to then, for the investigator to make a determination that this is really a fraud case that has to be escalated to the authorities, or this is just a false positive. So I do see, yes, that AI will play a leading role in this process, in that detecting fraud, but then also being able to get resolutions to sort of suspicious cases as quickly as possible.
Amazing. Thank you, Garrett, for that answer. And thank you to Yusuf for submitting the question. Let's see here. Let me see. Okay, so I believe that this is a question most suited for Abdulrahman, and it's submitted by Aisha Farouk. So the question reads, what are the key KPIs or metrics to track the success of an AI-powered fraud detection system?
Yeah, the key KPIs and metrics to track the success of an AI-powered fraud detection system.
So I believe Garrett can also answer that question as well, because it's basically focal. Go ahead.
By all means, Garrett, go ahead.
Thank you. That's a good question, because yes, we build systems, and being able to determine on how effective those systems are is obviously a key consideration. So when we build fraud detection systems, we want to optimize performance, but performance means many things. So first off, looking at the accuracy of the model. So what we want to do is we want to basically produce, the model needs to produce as many as possible true positives. And a true positive is actually a suspected case of fraud, and it turns out that it's a real case. So we want to maximize true positives. At the same time, there is a traditional problem in that models also create what's called false negatives. So for every one true positive, you might create 100 false negatives, and this causes a lot of work. And a false positive is basically where we think it's fraudulent, but it turns out that it was just a normal transaction. There was nothing fraudulent about it. So those are the key metrics that we look at from a performance perspective. Is we want to basically maximize our fraud detection rates and at the same time minimize false positives. The second aspect that we need to look at is latency. So we don't want to, specifically when it comes to bank transactions or transactional accounts, we literally have millions of transactions that happen in a very short period of time. And we can't create friction by, having a model that has to think like for 10 or 20 seconds about every, transaction it evaluates. So we have to have latency that's less than 100 or 200 milliseconds. So high latency or low latency and high performant models. That is the one thing. And then the last aspect I want to sort of mention is continuous monitoring. We can't just deploy a model and based on our test and development data and think that model is going to perform exactly like that in real world conditions. We need to monitor those models. And as soon as we start seeing deviations in the performance of the model, then we need to investigate that and retrain the model, look at the data presently. So yes, the metrics that we need to look at is a combination of, and it's also the metrics. These are sort of usually what we look at when it comes to, performance metrics, but it's also something that we align very closely with our clients. So certain clients will potentially rather target a false positive rate and say, I only want to look at X amount of investigations that I want to do in a certain day. So you try and optimize my detection rates according to that. And other clients want to maybe more focus on maximizing actual detection rates, and they're not too worried about false positive rates. So it's also something that we take into account when we discuss the implementation of our solutions with clients.
Thank you, Garrett, for that. And thank you to Aisha for submitting the question. The next question is, what are the biggest challenges banks face when implementing AI-based fraud detection, especially in high-risk regions or sectors? The floor is open to anyone who wants to answer. And this question was submitted by Abdul Karim. So
Yeah, maybe I can add
challenges.
my 2 cents
Please
here.
do,
So I
Abdulrahman.
think because I've been working lately with a lot of maybe digital banks and fintechs. So the biggest challenges that they face in these scenarios include really acquiring sufficient high quality and localized data to train AI models effectively. And when they train these AI models, they're training it against unique regional fraud patterns. So this could be, a very complex scenario, or to navigate this kind of localized or kind of within the region fraud patterns is very volatile and can change from one region to another, and it could often rapidly change within the same region as well. So covering the entire regulatory landscape can really and being able to navigate that volatility is can hinder the data access and model deployment. So this really puts them in a situation where they are combating really sophisticated and complex and different kind of scenarios, and being able to quickly exploit these new interactions can be very high risk. So it puts them in a high risk environment. So I would say just having sufficient high quality localized AI trained models is the biggest challenge. But once again, the easiest solution for that is what we have established between Google Cloud and Muzn. Today we have Focal that will be listed soon, available on the Google Cloud Marketplace, where any Google Cloud customer in the region can go and deploy Focal within a click of a button.
Amazing. Thank you, Abdulrahman. Get it?
I've got just a couple of points. So what we've seen and before I joined Muzn, I worked in Europe, and specifically also building risk models for banks. And what we saw there is the adoption of cloud infrastructure within the banking, within its technology stack as well. So banks are sort of curtailed to the extent that they've got sensitive data, so they need to ring fence their data, to protect the integrity of their customers. So they typically would have their own data centers, and they would store basically the data on that. But what happened in Europe is that banks adopted what we call private cloud. So it's a cloud still based environment, but it's basically belongs to the bank and it's ring fenced, so it's protected. But this allows also for scalability and flexibility. So deployment of tools. So tools are easily transferable in a cloud environment. So we can potentially build models and then deploy this in a private cloud. And we've done this obviously with Focal. So we've got our normal Focal solution, and then we've got our private cloud Focal solution, or on-prem solution as well. And the advantage of this is that we can scale solutions and into the bank's operational, into their data and their technology stack as well, very efficiently if they do it via a private cloud sort of setup.
Amazing. Thank you to you both for answering Abdul Karim's question. Let's move on. I like this one. Abdurrahman, I believe that this is more in your forte. How does Google Cloud uniquely help financial institutions balance speed and compliance in AI-driven fraud detection compared to other providers? Abdullah. Thank you, Abdullah, for the question.
Okay, so Google Cloud, has a unique standpoint when it comes to financial institutions, right? It really offers the high speed and scalable AI infrastructure. So Google Cloud provides a powerful, full portfolio of big data AI, including Vertex AI, BigQuery, and all the BigQuery connectors that can, perform export, transformation, and loading that is very essential to, you know, having all the data on cloud. And when you do a direct comparison with other data warehouses available in the market from other cloud providers, BigQuery is on the forefront of these, products or data warehouses. And it's really offer, you know, in conjunction with Vertex AI as well, it really offers an optimized real-time processing of massive transactions, all happening concurrently. So this kind of capability gives the financial institutions the ability to process low latency and often in milliseconds, which is critical for preventing fraud as it happens, right? Also, today in Saudi Arabia, Google Cloud is the first hyperscaler to be present with a region locally in the Dammam region that consists of 3 different availability zones. These 3 availability zones are separated physically, so they're in different sites, and but still connected with a highly redundant network. And when Google Cloud decided to invest in Saudi Arabia and have their region launched locally, they did it in collaboration and following the guidelines of the local regulatory framework, including the Saudi Central Bank, SAMA. So the way we designed the region, having one availability zone distant at least 100 kilometers away from the other availability zones, this really aligns with SAMA is requiring from the most financial institutions today, right? So having that kind of redundant and high availability architecture of the region is keeping, keeping these financial institutions in check and helping them not only be secure and robust and all the other benefits that I mentioned with the cloud, but also compliant with the local regulations.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Abdulrahman. And thank you to Abdullah for submitting the question. So the next question reads, what are the most, no, sorry, guys. Hold, I lost it. Oh yeah, there it is. How can smaller banks or fintech startups start using AI for fraud detection without huge budgets? And this question was submitted by Abdulrahman bin Amr again. Thank you, Abdulrahman. Thank you, Ibrahim.
Should I take this one?
Yes, go ahead.
There's an easy question, Focal. So Focal so Focal, yeah, that's good. You know, the key, one of the key propositions of Focal is that we cover the entire market. So even from small startups, you know, fintechs, etc., all the way through to the large banks. It's a software as a service, and it's got multiple components. So you basically, you know, you can have a very sophisticated system, or you can have, you know, just the basic system, the rule-based system. So, yeah, that's definitely an easy way to get sort of advanced fraud detection technology into your onboarding, your transaction monitoring, your fraud, you know, prevention and detection systems would be to use a product like Focal. Let us, you know, spend our expertise is sort of working with the data and building the models, and we can, you know, leverage off that. Let us work on those components and provide the solution to you, and then for the smaller, you know, companies, let them focus on their core business activities and not worry about fraud. So outsource the fraud detection to a specialist like Mazen. That's what my, you know, recommendation would be.
Amazing. Love that answer, Garrett. Thank you so much. And yeah, Mazen is the best. I bet everyone agrees here. Cool. So
I do agree.
Well, you better agree, Abdulrahman. Love it. So this question, I believe, is towards you, Abdulrahman. It's about Google Cloud. The question reads, do you encrypt all data stored in the cloud? And how do you determine which data requires additional layers of protection? And the question was submitted by Abdullah.
Okay, so you know, by default, the encryption of all data happens at rest and at in transit as well. What we have at Google Cloud is what we call is the shared responsibility model, where we are responsible of, as Google Cloud, we are responsible of protecting and keeping the infrastructure anywhere from the hypervisor level all the way down to the infrastructure. We are responsible of securing that part or that piece. Anything above the hypervisor level is the customer's responsibility. So we provide the tools and the security measures and the guidelines and the best practices to kind of guide the customers how to keep their data secure. Even when it's encrypted at rest and in transit, the customer has the keys to these encryptions, right? And I believe the second part of how to determine which data requires additional layer of protection, this really goes back to which industry are you looking at and what regulatory framework do you fall under, right? Once you understand the regulatory framework and the guidelines, you're able to kind of tag the data that you have and navigate it and place it in the right place and place the right security levels and protection layers on top of it. Maybe Gareth, you can add a bit more on the protection layers and how to kind of classify the data that a financial institution has.
Yeah, no, certainly. So again, it's more maybe just from our perspective. So what we want to do, so data security, and we're custodian of data of our clients. And as I said, there's a lot of really powerful information contained in the data. So we want to secure that data as much as possible. So yes, data is always encrypted at rest and in transit. That's the first thing. Secondly is try and anonymize the data as much as possible. If data is anonymous, then in most cases they can still be useful for developing models. But if there is a data breach, then the data is anonymized, so it's basically useless. Data access, also control access, only have people that should be working with certain data to have access to that data. So it's really practical things that you need to implement in your data to make sure that the data is protected and yeah, I think that
yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much to both of you for the answer. So Lymel, I hope I'm not butchering your name. Lymel Tatoy is asking, can you share examples of financial institutions that have successfully implemented AI-driven fraud detection systems? And the floor is open to anyone who wants to answer.
I'll definitely leave this one to Muzen Peeps to answer it. You guys have all the references.
I'm not sure if I can actually name give actual names, but I can give it. So yes, we've been very successful in the region, specifically within fintechs, sort of neobanks, payment wallets, and then also with the more established banks. So specifically, the use case I always want to use is payment wallets. We provide fraud services to one of the biggest payment wallets in the region, and that's the use case that I said before, that we've reduced the fraud by 80%. Yesterday we had a call, or not yesterday, I think on Monday there was a visit to this client, and other clients or other players in the in the region is actually reaching out to them because they are so successful at fraud detection and fraud prevention now, and that's a wonderful advertisement for Focal. So so definitely it's across the board and multiple aspects. As I said, fraud prevention, it's not just a single strategy, it's a cohesive strategy that starts with onboarding clients. So doing the risk assessment there, doing the screening results to ensure that these, the entity or the person is not, on financial crime lists. And then going through to once the account is opened, doing the risk assessment, when people connect to their accounts, understanding the devices, the locations, how those devices and locations are connected in the network, and then going through all the way to when they start to transact, change details on the account, start to transact. So it's a consistent monitoring. And as I said, we do that for anything from a small startup, fintech, or financial second tier, financial organization, all the way through to the big banks in the region.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Garrett. Yeah, go ahead, Abdurrahman.
If I may add as well, maybe, I need Garrett cannot really disclose names because, some references are not public yet. But what I know for a fact is that when Google Cloud and Muzen announced their partnership back in early 2024, a lot of the fintechs and the banks that I've been personally working on were super excited about this partnership. And there was some kind of, cross collaboration happening by bringing these banks that are already using Google Cloud to Focal and using Focal on top of Google Cloud. And the demand was super high. I mean, I've experienced this firsthand, and I've worked closely with the Focal people to introduce Focal into these new banks and the fintechs that I've been working with. Just another testimony to, how Focal is doing a great job with banks and fintechs here in Saudi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We take all of the good feedback to heart, and we love it. We love to hear it. Wallah. Thank you so much, Abdurrahman.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we've got time for one more. So this one is, and I believe it's for you, Garrett. It reads, how is Muzen planning using AI, offering other products, compliances, along with fraud from your integrated businesses to provide a full solution application? And this was submitted by Ahmed.
Quite a good question, and quite a tough one as well. So yes, so first off, compliance is really important for us. So in compliance, there's two edges to compliance. There is first off regulating the industry that we live in, so what Muzen operates in. So we basically, as I said, protecting data, respecting data privacy, the ownership of data, etc. So we work very closely with clients to use their data to develop a solution specifically for them. But at the same time, we want to promote, as I said, we can't fight crime alone, financial crime alone. We also want to promote sharing of this technology across the entire system. So we work very closely with our clients and using their data to basically build the best possible solutions. So that's the first part of compliance, or from the regulation perspective, is really honoring and following regulation. The second part is that SAMA is very proactive when it comes to fraud detection and fraud prevention, and our entire roadmap is aligned to the stuff that SAMA wants to implement. And one of the key implementations I want to see is AI. We're using AI more in fraud detection and fraud prevention. So we work very close with our clients to make sure that they are also compliant with regulation from that perspective. So there's a double advantage in that you detect fraud, and at the same time you're also compliant with the regulation that the regulator wants to impose. So it's basically an ongoing process because regulation also changes. So we keep on top of regulation. At the same time, we also have we also in the fortunate position of being able to work closely with the regulators and show them firsthand what of these AI tools are really effective and which ones are potentially not that effective, so we can focus our energies on implementing the right systems.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Garrett, for that answer, and for Ahmed for submitting the question. I believe that this is the last question that we can answer at this time. The rest of the questions we will be sharing all of the answers to in our blog. So please keep an eye out for that. Once again, a huge thank you goes to our brilliant speaker, Abdulrahman Shakir from Google Cloud and Garrett Becker from Muzen. And to all of you joining us today and participating, we hope to see you again soon. And we truly hope that you're walking away with practical insights and ideas on how AI and cloud technologies can transform compliance and fraud strategies. Until next time, thank you everyone and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Salama.
Have a good day.